I'm Joe Kane.
I'm Dan Kane.
And I'm Wayne Heckler.
And today we're going to give you our picks of the top 10 greatest horror movies.
Okay, so we've decided to discuss our top 10 favorite horror films because we actually just released a horror short called Twisted. And getting involved with that and doing all that started to spark our brain. So
It's
we
going
put
to
together
film
a little
festivals
list
right now.
Yes, it is going to film festivals right now. It starred these two, and
We got to torture Wayne for a couple days in a chair.
yes,
In a dark basement.
yes.
If you do get a chance to go look at it, it is on our YouTube, which is youtube.com/Heckler Kane Creations. And you can look it up on there. It's Twisted. But just talking a little bit about the production of Twisted and what we did. Basically, we picked one scenario. We were supposed to actually film a whole different film, if you guys remember, the day of that. And we lost our location. And we basically came up with Twisted within 6 days.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
we created the whole universe of Twisted within six days. And, got a location, got all the props together, got everything going. And, that's the beauty, I think, of some of these horror films is it doesn't take much to really, in production value to be able to do something that can scare the pants off of somebody.
In some cases, literally, because I almost got my pants scared off and Twisted. But you're going to have to watch to find out what I mean about that.
No spoilers for our movie. We'll spoil other people's movies.
Right, but not our own.
If you, again, go to YouTube, find that on there if you guys want to give a watch on that. And it's going to local Long Island Film Festival, Long Island International Film Expo. And we'll put in the credits down below the link for their information so you guys can take a look at that if you are interested in going to that. That'll be in late June. All right, let's get right into our list of top 10 horror films. We chose Dracula as our number 10 film. Mm-hmm. Now, anybody want to?
Well, we're talking about the old Dracula, the one in black and white. It was very eerie. Even the black and white actually makes that one actually scarier because it's dated in a way, but very scary, which also spawned many other offshoots of that. Frankenstein,
Wolfman,
Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah. Very sexy woman.
Well, that kind of goes with Frankenstein. The Mummy. That was another one that was spawned out of that.
The Mummy.
Yeah.
And it's become such a cultural icon in our society now that everybody knows what Dracula is.
Yeah.
Before that, nobody really knew.
It was a book, a famous book.
It was a book, Bram Stoker.
Right.
And then they eventually made that other movie with Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, Dracula.
Much newer
Dracula.
version.
Yeah, a much
right.
newer version.
The one with Bela Lugosi, right, was the original version.
Right. Well, but you're right about the black and white. It definitely added a little, scary factor to it. Some other films back then, like Night of the Living Dead, was another one that was creepy, and the black and white helped it. It made it more scary.
A lot of times, horror. When you get into horror, it's the things you don't see. It's the things you don't see on screen that make it scary. That give you something inside that creeps inside because your imagination is much worse than anybody can put on screen in front of you.
Right. And I think what set that tone was Jaws, was major, what you don't see. Because that actually, the way that started is they didn't want to show the mechanical shark. They thought it would look too fake. And then they said, well, we don't show it. I think it sparked the idea based on that.
There were mechanical issues with the shark. The shark wasn't working half the time. So Steven Spielberg brilliantly had to come up with some way to tell the story. So in telling the story, he had to create the suspense of not seeing this thing.
Using the music, using the eeriness. So, he was a master at that.
Yeah.
Well, zooming ahead many years will bring us to number 9, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Some of us couldn't get a lot of sleep after that. We didn't want to dream.
That one creeped me out a little because of that. You go to sleep and who knows if you wake up. And how do you battle something that gets you while you're out cold? So that's definitely a creepy one.
Well, looking at that, I'll be honest with you. That was one I was kind of pushing against on the list, but I think it is a popular iconic horror film. To me, the use of blood and gore just as a horror medium isn't necessary to scare the pants off of you, for lack of better words.
Right. Like you just said, what you're building up in your brain that's about to happen
Yeah.
is a lot creepier most of the time than just seeing something happen.
And obviously that's the technique. You build up with the music. This is going to happen. And then it falls short. It doesn't happen. And then when you least expect it, boom, it does happen. They use that technique very often in movies these days.
Right.
But something like the Freddy movies, and let's specify for anybody listening to this, we're not delving into sequels. There's no sequels. It's not like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, 3, 4. We're talking about the general
Lump sum of all
of them.
Such as Friday the 13th on number 8 choice. It's Friday the 13th. I don't know what that went up to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there 9, 10?
Well,
I really don't know.
And then they remade them all afterwards too, and there's reboots and everything. But we're talking about the franchise as a whole when we're doing that. So Friday the 13th is our number 8 slot, as you said. Let's talk about Jason Voorhees for a minute. What made him so freaky as far as it goes?
I mean, that hockey mask and the music. I mean, that's music. We've been tormenting our younger brothers and sisters with that music for years.
I hear that. I'm running.
Well, he's the younger brother, so
somebody. It could be a salt shaker, but I'm running if I hear that. But that was creepy. Also, the woods factor. You're out in the middle of nowhere.
I always think a classic thing in horror, and this was personified in Jason, was that he didn't move fast. He wasn't running after you.
Right.
You get into some of the like in Walking Dead. I think there's like runners that run after you, and like there's there's things that you can go, okay, well, I can escape that, but somehow like the helpless damsel always seems to fall down and break a heel, and still get caught. But it's the slow movement, and that it's freaky that way.
And with Jason, there was more magic to it because you would run. You could even run a mile and turn a corner. And he was walking as slow as anything, and he's there. So that was a definite scary factor.
Because it's like the inevitable fate. It doesn't matter.
No matter what,
run.
You can't escape.
He's behind you.
Well, it comes down to the music too. A lot of those horror films have that creepy, like soul shaking music to it, where you're like, dissonant chords that are really rocking your soul.
Yeah.
And you're right, being part in the woods when there's nowhere to escape makes it scary, which like Blair Witch, for instance. That's all in the woods. You think it's a peaceful place, and once you see that movie, you almost don't want to go back in the woods, just like Jaws did to the water and the beach.
Yeah.
There's certain things that just ruin certain areas for us.
I don't go in the water. That might be why. But.
Well, we don't have Blair Witch on our countdown, but I think that's a good thing to talk about because that was revolutionary. When that came out, there were stories flying around that and going, "Oh my God, this is real." Everyone thought this was real.
Yeah.
The fact that this videotape was found, and it really sparked a whole generation of found footage. It influenced much later things like The Purge. Some of those other
paranormal
activity for sure.
Yeah.
Great marketing,
great marketing. Clover, what is it?
Cloverfield.
Cloverfield.
Yeah.
These all were based around the idea of that. Oh, somebody found this, and this is what, and somehow scratched it together as a movie.
And it was a cheap one to make. It was an easy way to make. You don't have the expensive camera. How can we make a movie that could be scary? We use video cameras, and it just really hit home. And because using the video, it made people feel more like it was real than if you had the cinematic effect in this case.
Right.
Maybe that should have made the list because I think we all feel passionately about that. So that I'm gonna jump it there and say that was 7.5 because we didn't quite get to 7 yet, but I'm shoehorning in an extra. But again, it was revolutionary, and then they spawned a sequel from it, and it was a kind of a disappointment because the part of the allure of the Blair Witch was that it was found footage, that they thought it was real. They hid these actors until the release, until after it was released. Like there was no release party. It wasn't like they were like, no, you're not, you can't be seen in public or whatever.
It's something you can only do once.
It's something you can only do once, and the idea of putting a second one together, I guess, to me, kind of took away from it. But we lost that after the first time of seeing it and going, oh my God, this is real. that in itself was scary.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get down from our 7.5 choice that I kind of shoehorned in there. Let's go to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's our 7th choice.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was scary for a reason that you're just on the road, you're hanging out, you start off with good friends, how it always starts. You need help, maybe your car breaks down, this and that. Yeah. And then mostly it was Hicks, unfortunately. It made that aspect pretty scary, just like strangers that you don't know in the countryside and people that live away from society, the ones that you might not meet in the ShopRite or stores.
You know what? If you're in an urban area or even suburban area, you know, if you scream, maybe somebody can hear you. But you're out really in that rural woods, like nobody's going to hear you. They don't hear a chainsaw going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not.
They don't hear the chainsaw. And he ran a little bit after them. He didn't just walk.
Oh, no. He
was coming after them.
And it was scary because it made sense. He came from a slaughterhouse and he didn't see the value of life. It was easy for him to kill people. So that made it kind of scary and realistic. It touched home a little bit.
There was no escape. And I remember my parents telling me they saw that movie in a drive-in movie theater. And
they couldn't fool around at all.
All of a sudden started looking around and just saw all the people click, clicking their doors, locking their doors. Nobody would go to the bathroom. Nobody went to go get the popcorn. Everybody was just too scared.
The kissing stopped. And
I got to tell you,
I didn't ask for any more information on that.
I miss driving theaters. What a great thing. That's just, you know what? I guess it just takes up way too much space.
They still have a couple in Pennsylvania. There's a drive-in theater.
I went to one in Florida a few years back, but I missed them. Yeah. That was just
what an experience to go there, you know, sit in your own car and you have that insecurity of it's your own car. Like, you know, if somebody's creeping up behind you, especially a good horror film or a good thriller.
Right.
It kind of, I feel like that would put the hairs up on the back of your neck even quicker.
The only thing is the sound isn't that great. And I'm thinking this technology, they can make the sound a lot better.
Nowadays your car sound is much better than...
But the way they run the sound through it, and even the newest ones, I wasn't that thrilled somehow.
No, I just remember if I was at one I didn't like, I'd be staring out the side window. If there was another movie on the screen, I'd watch sideways. They couldn't hear what was going on, but I was just watching it.
Right.
But
that's when you bring your own little radio and your headphones, and you can kind of watch as, you know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we were talking. We went there when we were kids into these cars. So mom and dad's movie choice. It wasn't our movie choice. It was
their choice, and you brought your pajamas, your blankets, the 3 people under the blanket that they didn't know came in until they climbed out from under after you got them in.
The last movie I saw in drive-in was one of the Jurassic Parks, maybe. It was I think it was the second Jurassic Park. One of the Jurassic Parks I saw in the drive-in theater, and it was one of my first dates with my wife. And she was sick as a dog. She had just got out of an operation, and she came out, and we go, and, you know, I brought her to the drive-in because she was, you know, had been laid up from her operation. She had her gallbladder removed. It wasn't like it was like serious operation, but she had to have it done.
Now, showing that on camera would definitely be a good
horror film. Showing that on camera would be a good horror film. And then I got back to her house, and what happened was she had been, I guess, so dehydrated from, you know, not being in the house and whatever else and being out, that she completely fainted. She landed in my arms, and her eyes rolled back in her head, and I was like, oh my God, I killed my girlfriend. You know? Wow. I'm like, that was great. So that was a creepy experience for me.
That's 6.5.
That's it.
On our list. That one's right in there.
And the last drive-through that I went to, there was actually a guy that was streaking right through. He was totally nude, ran by everybody. I guess it was a college initiation or something like that. So that kind of ruined the movie right there. Right. Which brings us to the real number 6, It. What do you have to say about that, gentlemen?
It. I watched it at 4 years old. Take my advice, don't watch it at 4 years old.
You shouldn't watch any of these at 4 years old.
I was freaked out.
I was really freaked out. It to me was one of the most scary things ever. The idea of Pennywise, Tim Curry, absolutely phenomenal as Pennywise. Just the creeping in the sewers. I remember the one.
The sewer grate with the
paper boat that goes down, and it goes down into the grate, and then what was his name? Spanky. I forgot his name. Yeah. We'll call him Spanky. The little brother goes in, and he gets taken by by Pennywise, and wow,
I recall that they're all coming together later.
And they come together 20 years later,
and they're all still tormented by what went on. And
think about being an adult, and now you're looking about, something happened so traumatically when you were a kid, and like you're coming back and you're getting back together with these people that you had this trauma with, and then it starts again.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. I just remember them opening the fridge, and the guy's head was in the fridge. Wow, what a powerful! You're all broken up right now.
Definitely lose your appetite. Yeah, seeing that there.
I'm having flashbacks, but yeah, that was definitely a freaky one.
One that's not on the list that just sparked my memory was "Don't Be Afraid of the Dark." And for some reason, I just hear Sally, 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 Sally. It was like throughout. Instead of music, it was just this guy whispering Sally, and you see what it was. These little bold creatures grabbed this woman.
But that's powerful too. Sometimes,
Another one that was sort of like an honorable mention that we didn't put in the top 10, The Omen that I mentioned. The only movie that one, it scared me, but The Omen really freaked me out. And there was the kid was the Antichrist, and there was Rottweilers, dogs that were like watching him as he was a kid, as the guardian, and their breath as they were walking around was their breath was the sound of "Hail Satan" in Latin. Wow. That was what they were breathing. That's what they were breathing. Was
I'm glad I never saw that one.
It really freaked me out more than any other movie. And it's those little things that just put get the hairs on the back of your neck going.
Yeah.
So.
Moving on down the list, Carrie is our number 5 choice. We're saying this so like energetically and live. Carrie was our number. Yes, Carrie, the girl who went to high school and was tormented and killed everyone in the high school
shower scene.
And the prom, high school prom.
Oh, the high school prom. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, they pour pig's blood on her. At that point, you're almost rooting for her to take everyone out. You feel so bad for her.
That was
devastating.
It's different than a lot of the other ones because I mean she didn't come out as she wasn't she had powers, but she didn't come out like maliciously until everybody else was basically pissing her off. So you did root for her. You were in her corner. You're like, oh my God, this poor girl, and she's going through hell and everything that she's trying to get past. And it's some of it was normal adolescent teasing and whatever else, but you really do root for her, and she turns out like that.
I think that's what sparked the anti-bullying campaigns. After seeing Carrie, you push people to the limit. Look what happens, Which brings to another scary one. Halloween at number 4. That music, still just vibrates, echoes in your brain.
That is hands down one of the freakiest things I can imagine is just having that music creep up behind you as you're doing anything. There it is.
Maybe we should end this podcast right now.
We talked about being in the woods, but there's something creepy about this too, because this was the suburbs. It's just
this could be Long Island. Yeah,
house after house after house of families lined up,
and it didn't stop them. It didn't matter.
Just to get taken out, and that music goes with it. But the most of the movie is him stalking. He's not doing anything until the very end of the movie, and he's just stalking. He's watching, and that's creepy because he's watching what they're doing. They're going about their business, but he's there, and they don't know it.
He didn't kill a lot of people.
At the end,
a
4,
couple.
5, yeah.
But that was it.
But it was the movie that the freaky part was just that constant watching of their daily activity.
Let me talk about a reboot here, like with the Rob Zombie reboot. And I gotta say, there was a lot of things. He delved into a little bit more of the psychological end, but he made the character more just evil. The original, the very original, you didn't even know what that was. Mm-hmm. Like, where did this come from? And to me, that was, again, the mysticism of not knowing and your mind going, oh my God. Like, my hat's off to Rob Zombie. He did a good job on the remake. However, I felt like he gave away too much in that reboot.
I like the original. The one thing, and of course you'd redo it, you make it your own.
Oh, sure.
But the one thing that stood out to me actually as different was in the original, the night that he killed his sister at 6 years old, the whole story was he never spoke another word since that day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he in the remake, he was having full-out conversations with the doctor after it happened.
Yeah.
And then at some point got to where he shut down.
It takes away the mystique.
So for me, it's just because that happens to be my favorite. So anything that veers off, I'm like, nah.
Well, that could be said for any of these things. Most of these things have been remade in one form or another. I'm looking at the list here. I think It is the only thing that hasn't been remade. Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th. It's about to be?
That's our next film.
It's about to be.
Okay.
No,
we are going to go see It together, and we're going to come back, and we're going to do an entire episode on It, because that, to me, was one of the freakiest things.
Because it is it.
That's
right?
it.
Is that right? That's
and
it.
You got to
right?
see what Pennywise looks
Don't
like.
go there.
Bringing us to number 3, The Shining. Now, this is a classic for many reasons. I mean, just to be in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, you think you're starting off, hey, this is going to be a peaceful trip.
Right.
And the transformation that this character goes through is something else. Shining, I mean...
Loses his mind
He
taking
loses
care
mind.
of this place. And... what is it that he writes over and over again? He's working on his paper.
Red Rum is in a mirror.
Red Rum is the kid.
All play, Jack, and what is it?
All work and no play
makes
makes
Jack
Jack
a dull boy. Wendy, I'm home.
Oh, come on. That is one of the most iconic things ever. The here's Johnny.
Yeah.
Trying to Stephen King is just, to me, one of the most phenomenal, prolific horror writers. He's written so many things. Well, look on this list alone. We have It and we have Shining.
Well, and he wrote
Shining, but he didn't do the movie.
He didn't do the movie, but he wrote the original book.
Yeah.
And you see, that movie, it's not just a horror. It really takes a lot of thinking. You want to know what's going on. Little bits and pieces are revealed little by little.
Right.
Like the girl, the little girl.
And
the twins.
You know what? That gets us to debating between a horror and a thriller. I think they go hand in hand. And it's tough to say, okay, well, the horror is this and the thriller is this, but... They do go hand in hand. Yeah. If you don't have that thrill and that heart pounding thing, do you have a good horror film?
Because then it's just an all-out maybe gory, and that's really not what we like.
Johnny.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Now, bringing us to number 2, this is a movie that I literally to this day just refuse to watch. I watched it as a young, The Exorcist. I can't bring myself to watch it. It's on. I'll turn it quick. I just can't get into that character. I feel almost the evilness behind it. I'm like, I'm not watching this. But that's something that I actually still feel The Exorcist as just something I can't watch.
You know what? The Exorcist for me, I saw this, and it was out on VHS tape, and I saw this probably after the release, and on Halloween I saw this with a couple of my friends, and we all sat. There were like 5 of us on a couch that only fit 3, and we were all cuddled in together and watching this movie. It was I couldn't take my eyes off of it, and I also didn't want to watch it because I was so freaked out. I was completely freaked out. I was like, I want to say like 13 or 14 at that point. And I could not for the life of me watch this movie without just being completely freaked out. And I remember leaving the Halloween party that we basically, it was kind of a lame Halloween party if you think about it. This is my life.
All 5 of you.
All 5 of us sitting there on Halloween watching a movie.
Dunking for apples.
No. We did kept getting interrupted, which kind of, I guess, got the flow going on it with kids ringing the doorbell, and we had to give out candy.
Trick-or-treaters. Yeah.
But oddly enough, and a lot of people might put Exorcist as number 1. We have it number 2. But oddly enough, I laughed at the movie. Her head spun and she said things that I laughed at. I don't know if that's a bad thing about me, but I laughed at the movie. She spit the green stuff. I laughed more than I was freaked out.
I think probably because it's connected to like the Saturday Night Live episode when they do the spoof. Your mother sews socks that smell. You know, that was a scene. That's what he said. And the head spins. It got carried away.
Maybe I saw that first, but
tell me you didn't see the James Woods in what was that?
Scary movie too. No, I saw Exorcist first.
You saw Exorcist? Okay.
I did, but no, because James Woods was hilarious too in that one.
Yeah. Well, that's if you see that, it kind of takes away from some of the
all that. Then
some of the original.
That would make sense.
When you know what to expect, it becomes more funny, comical.
Right. Absolutely, but no, I don't know why. No, I saw it first, and it was just funny.
Still funny, too. Still funny. The whole theater's crying. He's laughing.
I don't know. That was, to me, that was an iconic movie. It's now later on in my life, thinking back to that, being a parent and having something, being from that aspect of it. Maybe that's why it didn't touch you so much.
Maybe it would scare me now.
Before you had kids.
Maybe it would scare me now.
Thinking about your daughter up there and that happening, and I've just planted this in your head, and you're going to be paranoid and awake all night. But for me, that was picturing that going on. It might be more scary now.
It might be more scary now.
More relevant.
Yeah. So it's.
I think back then I probably related more, I guess, to the priest, which was like whatever, but it still freaked me out. I don't know. I'm trying to psychoanalyze why you. Thought,
I don't know. I always think
the scariest movies.
The two together was that I always think of for some reason. Omen and Exorcist. One scared the crap out of me, and the other one might as well have been a comedy.
Which did you see first, The Omen or The Exorcist?
I saw The Exorcist first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I laughed at it.
Right, we're gonna make him watch it again tonight, and
the
we'll
Omen.
see.
If you haven't seen the original Omen,
Go
watch
check it out.
Yeah, it's freaky.
I think from a filmic purist point, I think we're all agreeing that the originals seem to be more scary because we didn't know what was going to happen. I think, going back and rewatching them, you have some graphic issues. Obviously, that they shot the best they could. It wasn't as they weren't able to create the scenes necessarily as well as they can now,
right.
With CGI and all those effects that we have. But in doing so, they figured out how to shoot around that.
Well, if you think about it also, it makes it more from what your point of view would be. You don't know what's lurking.
Yeah.
Right.
So the audience now sees what's coming because they can do all these things. But if it was happening to you, all you would know is what's going on with you.
And they were able to capture that right at that time. And we're all becoming more desensitized. The more things we're allowed to see, the more CGI, and everyone's seeing all things that it's almost unlimited what you could write, what you could imagine, what you could create.
Well, it was George Lucas, he when he created all of the things that he created for Star Wars, he said, I can't be limited by my imagination. So he went beyond and invented ways to make his imagination come true.
Right. He wrote the script and worried about how to do it later.
Yeah. I know sometimes when I'm writing something, I go, okay, I have limitations of what I can do. Even when we'll go back to Twisted, our film that we just did, there were limitations, and I knew the limitations, and I said, okay, we only have X amount of time. We only have this location. We only have the crew members and the cast for X amount of time, and so we had to put something together based on a lot of limitations. In doing that, I think we created something a little more creepy because I had to adhere to the limitations. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not trying to take away from CGI because you can do some amazing things and you can unlimit your imagination. Unlimit? Is that even a word?
Unlimit.
We'll allow it this time.
Your imagination can become limitless. Like Grammar 101. Yeah, I mean that's what that is.
Yeah. To me, it's creepier. It's creepier. A single shot.
Which brings us to our number one, which is very artistic, and it's scary in a different way. Number one is Psycho.
Yes.
And this would be, I guess, a real thriller. That's like the meaning of thriller because Speaking of Thriller, I'm just thinking of Vincent Price. Speaking of horror films, Vincent Price is the narrator on Michael Jackson's Thriller, and he's been in many of horror films throughout his day, right? Wax Museum.
House on Haunted Hill was he
right.
in?
Yeah.
But his voice is so iconic as one of those type of...
Absolutely. But Psycho, you got like the grandfather to Halloween, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, this was earlier. This was in the 50s, I think. But just creepy.
And one scene that stands out for me with Psycho is he gets rid of the car, the woman that he kills, and he wants to get rid of the car, and he puts it in the water, in the swamp. And we're watching it go down. It's going down little by little. And for me, it was almost like the first time that I think got the audience to actually root for this killer, because we're watching the car going down, like, come on, go down, like the cops are gonna come, and it just like drew us in his eyes. We witnessed it from a different point of view at this point.
Yeah, again, that's another one in the middle of nowhere, and just
Bates Motel,
just creepy.
And it was also a mystery. We didn't know who his mother was, and what that really meant. So it kept us watching.
Yeah, what
it
the
wasn't just
relationship
gore.
was.
Hey, no spoilers.
If you didn't watch Psycho by now,
1950. You've had a few minutes, a few years to take a look at it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that kind of completes our top 10 list of horror films. Again, if you would like to check out what we're doing as far as horror films go, Twisted is going to be at the Long Island International Film Expo, LIIFE. And we are going to, you can also check it out before then on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Heckler Kane Creations. And if you have any comments about our list, you have any comments about anything that we've done here today or talked about, or you just want to be friendly and hit us up, our Twitter handle is @HecklerKaneInc. Have a wonderful day.